Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel G. Wilson, and welcome to the Lingua Franca interview series. This is episode 3, and joining us today is the illustrious and amazing Lola. Uh, Please forgive me if I mispronounced the name. I love the Spanish language, but I am still an Anglophone, so I I might mispronounce stuff without realizing it.
No, no, it's totally cool. You know what? I don't even like. I mean, we didn't even spell it properly. I don't know if I ever told you the story behind the name.
Ooh.
Do
Oh,
you want me to tell you?
oh yes, but let me finish the introductions first. I'm excited now.
Sure. Well, I mean, I hope I can explain this properly. But so a bunch of years back, when we first started the project, we were looking obviously at a bunch of different band names because we didn't know what direction we were going to go in. But there was like a lot of things that were happening at the time that were, I don't know, just like our lives were changing. There was kind of like I guess like a sad undertone to a lot of things that were happening. I had lost a friend of mine who was really important to me. And so I don't know, we were just kind of like looking at names. And then we came across the name Dolores, which is actually the name of like a lot of our family members. So Lola is actually the short form for Dolores. And Dolores means sorrows, like literal, she is the lady of sorrows. Now, we love the name Lola because we always thought it was just such a beautiful name. But the thing was, there were so many bands that had the name Lola, like Lola. And we're like, what the hell are we going to do with this? So I'm not even kidding. We just slapped another A on it. And so that's why it has two A's.
I love it.
It's like literally that simple. We're like, yep, just slap another A on it.
Hey, why not?
Yeah, exactly. Keep it simple.
Nice, nice. All right, now since we've discussed your name, which I actually want to ask about that. I was gonna ask about that. Please introduce yourselves to the wonderful people at home.
Oh, yes, that would probably be a good idea, wouldn't it? I'm Lex, and I'm the singer and 50% of the songwriter of Lola. I'm Nadia, and I play bass and also songwrite.
Awesome, awesome. Ah, now I have so many questions. I have so many questions for
Oh,
both of you.
God.
um, One of my most pressing questions I have to ask now. I have to ask in terms of it's just kind of what is very apparent to me. Like, how what what got you into playing music? The amount of instruments I've seen, like particularly like Val, like how many instruments can you play?
Well, I can play bass, drums. I know how to write like melodies on keyboards, and then I can play like hooks on guitars too, and like make guitar parts. But I'm not like a pro or anything. She can sing backup vocals too, but she fights me on it all the time, and she won't do it. But we're self-taught. So we basically just pick them up, and we're like, oh, let's write together, and that's how we learned. Yeah.
I mean, I'm self taught, and I'm self taught, and I look at the amount of talent y'all have, and I'm just like, yep, I'm gonna quit.
No, you're very talented. Yeah, you are definitely like you're very talented. Like we always said that for us, like the goal was like it was never about us being really good at any instrument really. It was just like if we could write a song that like sticks in people's minds or like reaches their hearts, that's probably the most important thing for us, the songwriting. So we always kind of, it was funny because I remember when we first started, like even in our previous project, Magneta Lane, there was so many people that would criticize like our style of playing and how we would play. And we're like, dude, we just want to play and write music. Like we don't give a shit if we're not shredding this properly or like according to Royal Conservatory of Music crap. You know what I mean? Which is not crap. I do respect the Royal Conservatory of Music, but come on, like that stuff is not necessary. It's like songwriting, right? Like I just feel like it's a form of expression. So like as long as you can create something, if it makes you happy and makes other, maybe you can inspire people through your words, that's like the most important thing.
Agreed. Agreed. Who would criticize you? Your your band rocked. Like
Aw, thank you. Your band rocks too.
Oh, thank you. You're gonna make me blush. now, now, speaking of previous previous bands, um, in terms of I guess who I've talked to so far on the interview series, I think you two are kind of like have been involved in like the Toronto music scene, I guess the longest. um, because I first knew about your band when I was like your previous outfit when I was
You can say it, Daniel. We're old. It's fine.
You're not that old.
I'm kidding.
My older brother and sister my older brother and sister. They're old compared. They're old compared to me. They're like almost 40, but I remember seeing your first band, like your previous band, like when I first tried to kind of know about like local musicians, stuff like that, about 10 years ago, and even up to then, you guys have been around for a while. My question with that is just goes into, well, I'll ask further on, particularly as like as like Latinx like musicians, particularly in like the early mid 2000s in Toronto. What was that like? What was that like back then? Like what was that like compared to say now? Like, I imagine.
Oh man.
Yeah. Like.
Yeah, like I mean, so many things came into play, I think, at that point. But if I'm being completely honest, and it's nice to see that the world is like now kind of opening up conversations to this. But like I remember for us, like at that point, it wasn't even the fact that we were Latina at that point. It was the fact that we were women. And that was the first conversation always, where it was just like, oh, they're like young girls and they have so much potential. And so every interview that we did was constantly like, these girls. And I remember even like at one point we were so young, and even before we could probably even understand what it meant to be a feminist, like we were asked all the time, like, are you guys feminists? And sometimes we would be even afraid to answer that question because we were ignorant to really what it meant. And because we were like 15 years old, like the stupid teenagers that, didn't know shit. But at the same time, it was like, now seeing how much the world has transformed and seeing that people are actually having these conversations. And now we can also, embrace the side of us. Because it's the thing, like we've grown up in a Mexican house our entire life. Like our mother and father are both Mexican. We were born in Canada, but like our upbringing has been entirely Mexican. And I feel like in our previous band, it was like the first battle was just kind of like, okay, we're women trying to find a place in rock music. And I remember when there was like, major radio stations that would say like, we'll play them during indie hour because our demographic will not understand an all-female rock band at this time. And that was like 2004, you know what I mean, or 2005. And now you see bands like the Beaches or other all-female bands that exist, right? And they're all getting added to, radio, which is amazing to see. But that's the thing, like these conversations could not even be had at that point. And the only bands that were being noticed were bands that maybe had like one singular lead female singer, like for example, like Emily Hines from Metric, and an all-male backup band. So it has changed a lot, and I'm really excited to see that people are starting to, you know what I mean, just kind of have open conversations about this, and especially now with like the Black Lives Matter movement, it's just, like I'm not even lying, like my sister and I just seeing everything that's happened, like we've, like we just feel so, like I can't even explain it. It's just because that's the thing, like we grew up in Canada, but even back in Mexico, for example, like this is like a real issue, like the way like Afro-Mexicans are treated, the way darker skinned Mexicans are treated. I think that there's also something to say about, the fact that, I mean, if I were to talk about myself personally, like I would be considered a white passing Latinx person. And so, I have a completely different skin color experience than someone who is Black. And that's like the reality of this world. So, I mean, I'm just so happy that, at this point, it's like, I get to embrace my Mexican roots. I get to speak in a language that is my mother tongue. I get to write music, this way. I get to embrace this part of my identity that is so important to me. But at the same time, I think it's very important that we keep having these conversations and, giving a platform to people that are really, having a hard time with what's happening. And it's a real thing. So I don't know. I think right now, though, too, like our focus as musicians has completely shifted. It's like, we don't really focus so much on like, oh, what's that next single going to be? Or like, oh, like, how many records are we going to sell? Like, to us now, it's just like, if you're not saying something important, if you're not, raising up, voices that need to be raised, it's like, what the fuck are you really doing? Sorry, that was a pretty loaded answer. I don't know if I told you this, but I'm a pretty intense person. I'm sure you've noticed.
You were in a rock band. You are in a rock adjacent band, like.
Yeah, you should have met me as a teenager, man. I was like, that was a whole other experience.
Oh, that's funny. But no. To your point, well said, and I'm in agreement. It's seeing everything that's been happening, like, at least for the amount of time, like the couple years I've been involved in this stuff, like. See, it's a change. It's a change. Even in, like, the past 5 years, I know it's a change, right? Like, right, like, people are actually starting to actually just acknowledge, like, inherent biases, and people are starting, like, the amount of, like, I like my band, for example, I think just in terms of, say, the playlists are a thing now, right? We've only now in the past 2 months started actually getting on playlists outside of, like, maybe 5 friends. Like, people we don't know are starting to put us on lists, and a bunch of other Black musicians. Like, I'm talking with people and, like, yeah, this is the first time we've actually gotten this much attention, and I'm just like, what?
Yeah. And that's, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that, like, it's taken this long. And that's the thing, like, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking as well, in terms of, singing in your mother tongue, I remember seeing you guys perform Burn, which in your old band Magneto Lane, I remember when that song came out. I loved it, but, like, hearing it sung in Spanish, like, I was just mesmerized. Like, I was just mesmerized. I was just like, okay, I like this song even more now.
Thanks, man. You know what's funny? That song was actually, like, we already had the Spanish translation of that song when that video, like, in its original form came out, all those many years ago. But the thing was, like, the band, we just didn't, survive past, like, the 10-year thing. And at that point, like, we had become completely different people, and just, we're starting to write new projects. And, French, who's still, like, a really dear friend of ours, she moved on to film, and that's, like, always been, like, a big passion for her. And that was the thing, like, we just kind of had this, like, Spanish version of the song lying around, and we're like, I can't believe we haven't done anything with this, So, and also, though, to that song, and this is kind of like my thoughts around just music writing in general. Like, if the song is good, it could be sung in any genre, And this is actually something I really love about, like, your songs as well. Is, like, I feel like you have such nice melodies to your music that you can literally make, like, a pop song out of it. You can make a rock song out of it. You can make a punk song out of it. You can make a classical song out of it. Like, that's what makes a good song. And I guess I always thought that song had, and I mean, we thought the song had more of a lifespan than it got. And like, I always think that vocal hook, it's like, it's so dancey. You know what I mean? Like, even from the moment where it was written, it was like, this is like, sounds like a dancey song from, like, the 90s. And we just wanted to have that opportunity to kind of do it in a different way. And so Lola just kind of seemed to fit perfectly for it. So when our our full-length record finally comes out, it's actually going to include that song on it as well.
Stoked.
Yeah.
I'm even more excited for that release whenever it comes out.
Awesome.
All right. Cool. Now, my next question is also kind of in kind of representation aspect, hair. Now, this seems like an odd type of question, or generic question, depending on like the type of interview. But like, as a non-white person, as someone who comes from like the Caribbean, like I come from a Caribbean background, right? Like particularly in terms of music, right? Like you don't see like the type, like hair is a very weird thing. If anyone watching who is not from like a Caribbean, Latinx, or like a mixed black background, hair is kind of an interesting thing. Like hair textures, straight hair, curly hair, and the different types of stuff. Like even for example, like say you take say Pete Wentz from Fall Out Boy. My opinions of that band aside.
Everyone's opinions aside.
Pete Wentz is one of the few, like say few specifically like half Afro Jamaicans you'll find in like a prominent like band in kind of like outside of like reggae, really. That a lot of people knew about, but a lot of people probably didn't realize he was like specifically like half Afro Jamaican. One of the things is also because like his hair, and I often tell people, yeah, like he just straightened his hair. That's why he was one of the reasons you didn't notice. So like watching you guys particularly as well, like seeing a band as well, seeing a band from like a similar cultural with members from similar cultural background as me, actually having the curly hair fly, like like that was kind of I appreciate that, like seeing, like I appreciate that. You know what I mean? I appreciate that. Like, I don't know if that was a conscious choice at all, but I don't know if that was a conscious choice. But like, first off, like again, like I just love seeing like us laying our hair just kind of be how it just is. So, like, I know, was that like a conscious choice, or is that just like an awesome style choice? Which it's awesome. It's awesome. Dare I say?
It's just a part of me. Like I've tried straightening my hair before, and I just like don't feel like the same person. Like, so I just let it all natural. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think like ever since we were little kids, like my mom too, like I feel like she kind of always let us embrace the fact that we liked having long hair. Like my hair was always long, but in Spanish, like we call it quebrado, which is like it's not straight, but it's not curly. It's kind of just like a big hot mess. But the older I get, like the more that I embrace that. Whereas like Nadia's hair, like she's got this like beautiful curly like textured hair, where my mom just like ever since we were kids, just like
she always took care of it.
Yeah, she always took care of it, like always did. That actually makes me kind of emotional. That's so beautiful. Like my mom she was just kind of always like making sure that we would embrace who we were. And like I remember even from the age of being like, I don't know, like 7 or 8, like we always had really, really long hair. It was always really natural. And my mom just did everything she could to make sure that it just stayed, that way, but not in like a weird, like, like, oh, I want my kids to look like cute little dolls. It was just kind of like, you guys be free, like do your own thing. Like to the point my sister just made, like it's always just felt like a part of us. Yeah. I've cut my hair short before. It was more like out of an angsty move, or because I dyed my hair blue and then it just got damaged at some point. But that's the thing. Like I can't imagine myself without long hair at this point. And same with my sister. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Your mom sounds amazing. Sounds like an amazing woman.
She is. Yeah. She's a very amazing person. She's also very intuitive as well.
Nice.
It runs in the family.
Yeah, it runs in the family. Mama knows everything.
But yeah, like even in my case, like like I used to always I was just always kept short. But then a couple years ago, I was like, yeah, I don't want to cut. I never liked getting my hair cut. I just did, and by the time I forget how old I was, but like pretty much like from about 2017, I just was like, I just don't want to. I don't want to keep cutting my hair. I'm done, because I just like I decided to just let my natural like hair just kind of grow out and just kind of run free.
Exactly. I think you know what, that's kind of something I feel that happens to all of us naturally too. Like the older we get, it's like the more important it is for us to like kind of embrace like our own authenticity and our identity, and we stop giving a shit what other people think about us. And so I think that's kind of part of it too. You know, it's like I think it's beautiful that one day you'd be like, you know what, like I'm just kind of tired of doing this thing for other people, and like I feel more like myself like this, so I'm just gonna do it this way now. And I think everyone needs to do that. You know, even if that means dyeing your hair green or like cutting a mohawk or doing whatever to it.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
And it all. And if and I also always like to encourage people, like particularly like from again like backgrounds like ours, like like if that is what you desire, like like letting your hair kind of be how it is, or growing out or whatever, like often like kind of being kind of like to encourage people, just like you don't have to conform to like that standard look, you know what I mean? You don't gotta like you what I mean, you don't gotta like you don't gotta keep your hair a certain way just to say appease like beauty standards that were not meant for you, know what I mean? It's just like just let the afro flow, or let the long curly hair kind of just let it be, you know what I mean?
100%. And that's the thing, the more you embrace yourself, I feel like the more like the world around you kind of responds in the same way, you know what I mean? So like I don't know, like it's funny, like I feel that when the more I used to fight my hair, like just the texture of it, I probably get more compliments for my hair now that it's just like it is what it is, you know what I mean? Maybe it's because like my face is not as stressed out, or maybe I feel more like confident in myself, or whatever that case may be. But I think it's just, it is just so important to like embrace your own authenticity, and to just love yourself the way you are,
Agreed. Now,
I love these questions. They make me feel so good. I just want to give you like a big hug. After Corona. Yeah, after Corona.
Agree.
Masks off and everything. Yeah.
Only another year.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Such is life.
Yeah.
Such is life. Now
I forgot about that for a second.
Now if only I can work some Caribbean black magic and get coronavirus to stop.
Yeah.
But on to back to the questions. So, my next question, right? So, in terms of say, keeping on in terms of say Latinx musicians, like, what would you say the current, I guess, kind of like, what was the scene like specifically in that, from that end, like in Toronto, Southern Ontario, like what is that like, you know what I mean, like particularly now, you know what I mean, like I know there's been changes happening, some of which I've been involved. What the? Oh god. Well, sorry everybody. The oh my. The Well, the phone cut off. Gonna see if I can get them back. Hello?
Sorry, I don't know why it cut out. It just cut out.
Yeah,
it was such a good question too.
No worries. All right. Lola is back, everyone. Excuse the technical difficulties.
We are alive. Yes.
I should get I should get music for that in between, but anyways, okay. So back to what I was saying. I'll carry off where I left off. Now, I know there's like there's been some changes, some of which I've been involved in. But like for example, I know people like with say Futuro Libre, for example, in terms of kind of I guess changing how things have changing how things have been working in that regard and for representation, but like what is that like in being Latinx musicians like now? Like, what is that like? Is there kind of a cohesive? Is there a cohesive like contingent of the scene, or like like is there like this a growing consensus? Like what is that like currently?
Man, that's an interesting question. Well, I'll tell you what it felt like, I guess, before this COVID thing happened, because I just feel like so much is happening right now. So we're still trying to navigate like exactly where we fit in. But what was so interesting to me, like when this project started, I think what now like 2 years ago. I remember like at the beginning, like I was trying, like we were both trying to constantly like connect with other Latinx artists, like in the city or like in the country for that fact. And it was always us just asking like, who is there out there, like who can we talk to? And I remember being on like women in music message boards, like all these like community message boards, and it was always the same thing. It was like, okay, well there's Lido, and then that was pretty much it. Like that was the suggestion that everyone would give us. But then I would keep hearing about two people, and everyone was just like, okay, first you need to talk to Sergio Nieves. He's got his own production company. Like they produce events, and they're called Futuro Libre. And basically, he's like, to me, he was like the only name that kept coming up all the time. And then it was actually yours, Daniel, as well. They were like, this kid, he runs Lingua Franca. It's really cool. Like, and I was like, oh my God, like I want to meet these guys. Like that was, and I actually remember like at the time I was actually working for Universal Music in their strategy department. And it was just so crazy how like I was like, man, like even just being on this side, it's like there was no one that we could connect with. And I just took it upon myself one day to send Sergio an email and being like, hey man, like it looks like we're the only Latinos like doing things in the independent music scene. And also like a friend of mine is Alex Veliz, who like he does more pop music, but we would always laugh and say how like anytime Latinx artists were being interviewed, it was always like Lola and Alex Veliz, right? Like it was just the reality was that it just felt like it was just very disconnected, and didn't feel like there was enough of a platform for any of us, to be honest. But now, like in meeting Sergio, he introduced me to a lot of other bands. Like there's a band from Winnipeg called Mariachi Ghost. It's really cool. But to be honest, like I wish that the scene here for Latinos was like bigger, and not just like exploring like the spaces of like salsa music or like bachata or reggaeton or like the stuff that's like more like popular in Latin communities. But that's the thing. Like, what about the independent, indie pop, independent music Latinx scene? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that was something that, because we couldn't find it here, we actually started connecting with artists like down in California or in Mexico City, which brings me to why, I live in Mexico City now. I'm like in Toronto at this point because I'm spending time with my family during COVID, but I live in Mexico City now. So it was just one of those things where we feel like we couldn't connect. Now, the perks of that actually, showed up probably a year later when we started, getting basically all the opening slots for like any amazing, cool indie band or international band that was like a Latino fronted band. If they were coming through Toronto, they would be like, hey, let's call Lola, right? So we got like a lot of like really good opportunities out of that. But at the same time, it's just, we need more than just what we were seeing, right? Like we wanted to feel like we were part of something, and we just really never felt like we fit in anywhere. So I guess we started to kind of venture out a little bit, south of the border because of that. And to be honest, like right now we've kind of put the release of our record on hold because of COVID, and we actually finished it and it's like ready to go and everything, but we're just trying to wait things out. So we won't really know what that landscape looks like until we release it. But obviously it's great to see that there's been, success with Lido here in Canada, and we've seen success of other like indie artists that are, from the United States, like, Helado Negro is like one of our favorites, Buscabulla, who were originally from New York, but they went back to Puerto Rico. We actually have one of our friends who was a guest vocalist on one of our songs for this record. Her name is Cristian, and she's in a band called Sin Color from California, and they're amazing too. And then obviously I can't even tell you how much amazing talent exists in Mexico, independent music that's coming out of there, and it's so like progressive, and you know they're also playing their instruments, and it's just such a different scene. Whereas here, like I've literally heard people say, like if it doesn't have a keyboard in it, we probably won't sign it or we won't invest cash in it. And this is like from a more label standpoint, but yeah, like to be honest, I don't know what that's going to look like a year from now. All I'm saying is that, you know, if you're like a Latinx kid and like you feel inspired to start music, just like start putting your bands together, keep writing music, because like we need more people. We need more people.
Agreed.
Yeah. And again, I'm sorry. I talk a lot. I should probably stop talking.
No. Please talk. It's good to, like it's good to hear that like that perspective, because like at least with what I do, like you know, I have like because like you know I focus on like the general like BIPOC scene, but like I'm not like a member of every I'm not a member of every of the individual of the minute of every individual group, and like I'm not like everywhere, so it's always good to hear like you know it's always good to hear the different experiences within the scene, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that like at least in terms from like the very more like just underground kind of stuff, at least in Toronto, like there are some changes happening. Like you know there's like MBG for example, which is basically like a one woman band, which is a one woman band essentially, but like she has a backing band live. Carolina Rodriguez. She's pretty cool. She lives in Brampton. Like she plays like all the instruments on and records herself. It's pretty cool. And then her guitar player Raph as well, another awesome Latinx musician. There's Cicada. I know there's Cicada for example. They're really good. Predominantly like all three of the members are all like Latinx, and they have and there's only one white guy in the band who's their bassist.
Yeah, I know. There was actually one really cool band. I think they were out from Halifax. Was it Lo Siento? Yeah. Yeah, they were really cool. And like the singer of that band, she was Latinx as well. But that's the thing. Like it's like I know that we're out there, but it's just a matter of us kind of like banding more together. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's kind of like the missing ingredient. It's like, you know, not feeling like we're all fending for ourselves, you know, individually, but if we were to actually come together as a community, like I feel like we could be so much stronger in the way other communities have flourished. You know what I mean? So if anything, like that's kind of like the one thing that I'm putting out there is like, you know, if there's any like Latinx artists, if they ever want to connect, if they want to, you know, send music, like I would be more than happy to meet them and see how we can like, you know, collaborate, you know, on some ideas and things like that. But that's the thing, we got to talk to each other. And if we're not talking to each other, then we're not doing what we could be doing.
Definitely. Having a block is very important. Like I always try and do that with like you know the BIPOC community, and also outside of that like specifically the Black and Jamaican community, because like having a block is so important.
Yeah.
Because like you know especially when we're like you're in the margins, like you know knowing everybody, connecting, forming like a scene, and like even sharing just simple resources like playing shows with each other, you know, God, I can't speak English today. Championing each other and stuff like, and you know, bring each other up. Like it's like even in terms of like say from as a Black musician, like you know, like I would specifically like every time I would make note of every single non-white person at a show, and I would also make specific note of every other Black person I'd see at a show, and so you know, even if let's say you know. People at punk rock shows, they can be standoffish. I'll just specifically be that versus like, hey, what's up? Nice to meet you. My name's Daniel, and then we just all end up becoming friends from there. And you know, and now like compared to how it was at least for me like 5 years ago, where I was the only Black kid at every show.
Yeah, and you know what, Daniel, it's so interesting you say that, because I think that was actually one of the things that we loved so much about you, was that when we first met, you were just so open and so kind, and I think that, like, this is the thing, like, you know, like you were saying 5 years ago, but it was even worse 10, 15 years ago, like, you know, when you were, like, you know, girls at a punk rock show, or guys and girls would come to your show, but they wouldn't even talk to you after your shows, and they would just kind of, like, judge what you were doing. And I think that I I just think generally it's like, it's just so much nicer to just kind of open up those lines of communication and support each other, just for, like, you know, just being human beings, you know. And so, like, it can't kill someone just to say hello and say, like, you know, good show, or, like, you know, how are you feeling today, or, you know, what's your name, like, what's your story, like, I think there needs to be more of that. So that was actually something that I always really appreciated about you. So every time we see you at our shows, like, I'm just like, wow, like, you know, Daniel, like, he's just such like a bright light, you know, in the space. And I just wish more people would embrace that attitude.
You're gonna make me blush again. but but no, like, yeah, it just seems simple. Like I never got the mean mugging. It's just like, you know, it's like, it's like, you know, the musician look when you just have their arms crossed and just like looking, just like watching. You can't tell if they like the music or not.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, like, you know, just make the scene, just make the scene better in a way. Why you got a mean mug? Who you trying to impress? You know what I mean? It's just,
yeah. I think it's just a lot of people. Like, the one thing that I learned very early on, I just think there's a lot of people that feel that maybe it took them a really long time in terms of, like, them having to pay their dues. So sometimes I think they just have very complex emotions to seeing, like, I don't know, like, maybe people, like, you know, that are, I don't know, just, like, you know what I mean, doing their own thing, and they're kind of unaffected by that. And I think that it's, like, in the music industry in general, like, it's so important to be proud of the accomplishments of others, even if it means that maybe, like, our highs and lows, you know, peak seasons have, like, kind of passed in a way, you know. Like, there's always an opportunity to come back with a project, no matter your age, no matter, like, who we are. And so, I don't know, like, I think maybe, like, if you, like, sometimes I just tend to look at people like that and just kind of understand, like, where maybe their perspective is coming from, even though, like, I don't necessarily relate to it, but yeah, I don't know. It's just like, I just think, like, to your point, you know, and the way you've been is just spreading positivity is important. The more you put out there, the more that you get back in return.
Totally, except in cases of people who steal my pie. There's a place in hell for people who steal pie.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Yeah, fuck those people.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be swearing on this, right?
Oh, no, you can swear.
Oh, okay. I'm just like, you know, it's funny now, because, like, it's weird. Like, I teach kids English online, like, now too. So, like, every time now I think I'm just like, oh, but the kids. So, so if I'm ever dropping too many F-bombs, just let me know.
Oh, no issue. I'm Jamaican. Like, by default, I'd be hypocritical if I had a no swearing thing, because, like, all it takes is someone to just to just kind of get me mad enough, and I'll just start unloading, like, patois and cursing in patois, like, and I'll be talking to, like, ethnic musicians, particularly even other Jamaicans, and, like, yeah, I'd be remiss not to let people be who they are, especially when, you know, cursing is, like, in our languages.
Yeah. Also, though, too, I think it's, like, a very Virgo thing for you and me.
Oh, a fellow Virgo.
Yeah, exactly.
So yes, but onward to music.
Yeah.
So, you don't have to go too deep into this, but, like, I'd be remiss if I didn't, like, specifically talk about, like, your previous project, Magneto Lane, mostly because, like, again, like, literally I remember when I, like, actually met you guys, and you know, knew about Lola before that. I was like, they look familiar. Oh. and you know, like I said, like I said, you know, that was one of the first, like, again, like local bands that was not like Broken Social Scene that I knew about.
Yeah.
And as well as like another like again, like in terms of like local bands, I'm from Mississauga, but like technically local in terms of, like, you know, like the GTHA and whatnot, that wasn't like the OBGMs that had like non-white members in it.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't, again, like you know, like Metric, and everyone forgets Metric as a non-white member.
Yeah.
um you know, it was one of the first bands I knew about. So like, you know, about your previous band, like, what was that? What was that like? That run. And like, also, why did you pick the name Magnet Lane?
It's like it was, that one was like another just like really silly explanation.
Random.
Yeah, like, well, I'll tell you about the name first. So Magnet Lane, was funny because, well, I guess before then, we were really young. We actually, and I don't know if you're familiar with this story, but when we first started that band, we were actually like 15 and 16 years old. But for many years, we told our record label and our community that we were 19.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we really wanted to play shows at live bars, and you know, it was just one of those things. Like, we were just like, we wanted to play our music at all costs at that point, and
we wanted people to take us seriously too.
Yeah, and that was the thing, right? Because like, even in us saying that we were 19, it was just, you know, it always became a thing, like 19-year-old girls, and we're like, damn, we should have told everybody we were 30 or something. I don't know, but
No.
but no, like the band name itself, I remember like Nadia and I were just like, you know, going to bed one day. We had like 2 single beds in one room at that point, just like living in the same space. Because I swear to God, we're like attached by the hip, even though we're so different. But one day, I think I just remember turning over and saying, "Oh my God, I got it!" And she's like, "What?" And I was like, "Magnet Lane. What does that sound like?" And the thing is, at that time, we loved bands like Sonic Youth and just, you know, bands that had kind of like the 2 words in the name rather than the thing, because there was so many bands that had the in front of them. So we didn't want to be part of like that little fad. You know, in our teenage brains, we're like, that's so not cool anymore. But yeah, it sounded, you know, like it just sounded like it sounded right, if that makes sense. But what made it more interesting to us was that Magnet Lane, to us, the way that it was visualized, was a place that was attractive but not good for you. So we would think about places like a Sunset Strip, or, you know, places in where it had this like incredible magnetic feeling to it, but you knew you weren't supposed to be there. And I don't know why that was the image that kind of came into our minds, you know, like very brooding teenagers indeed. But yeah, and then, you know, to your point, just how you said about like, how was that experience overall? I think, you know, that's kind of how the music industry felt for us at the beginning. It was like a place that was very attractive to us, but it wasn't necessarily very healthy for us, you know. And we kind of learned that really early on. Like, we were never the kids that got involved in like drugs. Like, you know, obviously, you know, we had like our, you know, little drinking parties at the beginning, and it was, you know, I think life on the road is very interesting, because it's like basically like, as musicians who, you know, like our young 16, 17-year-old girls on the road, it's, you know, basically everywhere you go, everything is free, right? And that's not really that healthy for a teenager that's like trying to come into their own and learning, you know, what their identity is essentially, but also just being surrounded by people that were so much older than us. And everyone kind of saw like, you know, not to put it this way, but it was like they saw kind of like dollar bills, you know, hanging over our heads, because they're like, oh my God, like they're young girls. And, you know, we did feel very much exploited at that time. And, you know, I'm not saying that was the intention of, you know, the label that we were working with at the time, but that was the thing, right? It was like there was always the conversation about the fact that we were like young girls. There was always the conversation about how, you know, we were wise beyond our years. I would say that I'm actually very proud of the, you know, the Canadian music industry now that is like so openly discussing, you know, people, you know, at that point in time that were, you know, probably doing a lot of things that they shouldn't have been doing, and are actually starting to have open conversation, exposing people who, you know, just were not good, and, you know, just were, I don't know, probably just like unhealthy people to be around at that time. But that was the thing. That's all stuff that we lived and we saw. And at that point, like, there was really no voice and space for it, you know? So we just kept working. Like, you know, we worked for such a long time, and we were a band for 10 years. And then, you know, we feel like we kind of went off in a high note. You know, we finally put out our last record on our own record label, and we toured it, and we probably made more money off of that release than we ever did from, you know, the entirety of our career, because we, at that point, were managing everything ourselves. But yeah, like, it was definitely like a roller coaster ride. But, you know, I'm so proud that all of that happened, because in the end, that's, you know, what made me go back to marketing school. It's what made me, you know, start working, you know, with a major record label. I started becoming a more savvy business person. And that's something that I do encourage a lot of bands, which I'm actually seeing a lot of bands doing now, which is like, it's not just about writing music, but also being that, you know, that business person, that strong business person that you need to be to make the executive decisions behind your own career, so that you're not listening to people giving you the advice that's just like not in your best interest, you know. And it's because at the end of the day, like, you're the one person that's going to look out, you know, for yourself the most. So it's just so important to, you know, learn about your environment and, you know, everything from, like, you know, entertainment law to, you know, how to market yourself, and also understanding that it's actually good to say no sometimes. If something doesn't feel aligned with you, absolutely say no, and only say yes to the things that feel authentic to you. And so I know, again, that's a very loaded answer, but I feel like that experience was, you know, it had its highs and lows. I was thankful that I got to have that experience with my sister and, you know, one of our best friends, French. And the one thing that we said, that no matter what happened, even at the end of the band, we would always stay friends. And we decided to protect our friendship. And that meant allowing us to grow up and do other things that we wanted to do. And still to this day, like, we look back and we laugh at the experience, and we got to see so many amazing things and meet so many amazing people. And we wouldn't trade it for anything, because it's made us who we are today.
Cool. Very cool. Well, my 14-year-old Daniel is is smiling right now. Now I obviously have to ask. I obviously have to ask. Is the dog really mine?
Oh, Kevin, you know what's so funny? Kevin has been a longtime supporter of, well, he was like a longtime supporter of Magneto Lane, and actually took us on tour so many times. And for those of you that don't know, Chaos, he's just, you know, incredible Canadian rapper, also just like a brainchild. He's one of the most creative people I know. I swear, I think he's just an alien, because his thoughts come from outer space, but it's like why I love him so much. But he honestly has always been such a supporter of every project that we've ever done, and for that, I, you know, couldn't thank him enough. But is the dog mine? I think the dog is mine. I don't even know what that means, to be honest.
About a breakup.
Oh, is it about a breakup?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, no, I think so, right?
Is that what the song's about?
The breakup.
Oh, I don't know. But yeah, I was like, I don't know. I'll ask him. I'll be like, dude, what does that mean? No, but you know what? It was fun though, because he's actually asked us to be in a couple of his videos as his backup band, and we always joke saying that I think Kevin just like really wanted to be in our band.
Yeah, we're in 2 other videos.
Yeah. We're also, what's the name of the other one? Was it Born to Run, and there was one more.
I don't remember.
Turn You Loose. Oh, I love
Turn
that.
You Loose?
Turn You Loose. It's the one with the one that Michael Max has shot. The one with all like the weird characters in the ballroom. Yeah. Sorry, we're going down memory lane right now, but
No worries.
But yeah, Kevin's awesome.
I gotta do a YouTube dive now. But yeah, I couldn't help but reference that video. I couldn't help but reference that video. We mentioned Mexico City earlier, but like as well, I'm also like curious. Tell me, in Mexico City, for starters, like what was the what was the primary reason like you'd say move to Mexico City, like that, right? Like I know Mexico City is like, you know, I know it has an amazing music scene, but like it's what can I say? It's kind of out of left field for a musician living up here. You know what I mean? Like, at least for me, like the only thing I would say similar would be, wanting to play my cousin's bar in Jamaica, for example.
Yeah.
But like, I'm curious into say kind of what sparked that move, and like what's your experience in Mexico City currently like? Is there like is there something that kind of people up here should be looking out for? Like, I will say, like, I always, for anyone listening, like I always encourage you to like check out the musical scenes. Like if you're interested in like alternative music, not necessarily punk, but like punk adjacent. Even if you're into like any form of alternative music or punk adjacent music, like around the world, like they go hard with their in the musical scene. So for anyone listening there, if you go to like Europe, if you go to different African countries, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, like their music scenes are fantastic, and Latin America especially. But yeah, going on to that, like Mexico City, what's inspired that move, that kind of out of left field move for a musician up here, and what's it like over there? What is this? What is the secret sauce that made you stay?
I think, well, I mean, first, the reason why I moved there was a couple of things. I think, I don't know, it's like, it's like you just kind of get at a point in your life where you're like, you know what, if I'm not going to do this now, I'm never going to do it. And I think I had just reached this point in Toronto specifically where I'm like, you know what, I've kind of been there, done that. I want to try something new for a bit. So it was just me personally challenging myself to just kind of explode my life and start over. And I know that could be really scary to a lot of people, but I don't know. I think just the older I get, the more inspired I feel to just do the things that scare me. I don't know why, but I feel like maybe it's because I was, so cautious throughout most of my adolescent life that now older, I'm like, a little bit more decisive about the things that I want and what I want to do. But yeah, so Mexico to me obviously felt like a natural choice because that's where my family's, rooted. My mother's actually from Mexico City. My dad's from Monterrey, but I remember going a lot to Mexico City growing up and just always feeling the energy of that space. And I think generally, like what's always attracted me to, Mexico City in general is just seeing how many people were there of my age that were doing creative projects. But the thing is that there is definitely like this, this influence from like this old world part of Mexico, which feels very ancestral and very earthy in everything that they do. Like if you see the design that comes out of there, it feels very like rooted in like, Mexican ancestral art, or the music, right? Like the types of things that they use for like drums or things like that. And that to me actually felt like it was calling me, like as maybe cliche as that sounds. So I said to myself, I was like, this is kind of where I want to be and what I want to do. And so, 1 month trip and playing a show down there actually turned into me living there. But that's the thing, like there's something about it where I just feel very connected, even though it's very fast paced and can be overwhelming sometimes. There's just something about it that I connected to more. And I just had this like intuitive feeling, I guess, that if I went there, that things would just open up. And one of the other things that I love about it, of course, and I think this is maybe kind of the more obvious answer is, what Nashville is to the United States for country music, Mexico City is that in terms of writing for Latin America. And there's so many people that come from other parts of Latin America to go to Mexico City to become songwriters. And I think one of the things that I've always said is that, at the end of the day, like, whether it's Magneto Lane comes to pass or Lola comes to pass or anything, like my sister and I will always be songwriters. And we live in this world where we're connected by technology and, we're just like a flight away. And I know a lot of people, they've always asked us, they're like, how have you guys managed this, like being in two different countries? But it's completely possible if you want to do it, if you can do it. But yeah, like it just seemed like the natural decision for me in terms of like me wanting to explore my songwriting and also connect with other musicians in Mexico City to see what those collaborations could could look like.
Very cool. Very cool. Huh. I should check that out. I should check that out.
Yeah, it's wicked, man. Honestly, and like, you know, anytime you want to come down, you want to crash on a couch, we have a couch.
Thank you. The punk musicians mecca, the couch.
Yeah.
That's not even a joke. I actually my bandmates kind of joke with me about this that because I hold the couch as like a sacred spot where it's just like, you know, it's an honor and privilege when, like, you know, you're able to like crash on a friend's couch, and it's just like I literally I'll joke about as the mecca, but like, you know, thank you, but you know it's just, you know, like that's just an honor. It's just one of those things that's kind of with when you're like, you know, when you're in a punk band for enough time, you're like, you know, you appreciate the couch.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the thing. I don't know if you've ever done the van, but I remember we've done that one before too.
Oh god, we have yet to do the van, but considering like we were off topic, my band we were supposed to go on a bunch of tours this summer, and we were going to do the van thing, but COVID happened, so
yeah.
In my dreams.
COVID.
Yeah, in my
dreams.
dreams.
Question for you, Daniel, not to flip this around, but like, where do you think this live music space situation's going with everything that's happening?
Short term or long term?
Let's say long term.
The pandemic will end at. Oh, sorry. No, there was an alert on my computer. I just got it in my headphones.
It's all good.
No. All right. The pandemic will end eventually. Like that's a guarantee that's gonna happen. Like, the absolute worst case scenario, realistically, is like it mutates into some really bad version, and it, like, you know, it eradicates all humanity. But at that point, like, we won't be around to care. So
that's true. Fair point.
But in terms of just general, like, the pandemic it will either like evolve into, you know, it'll become either something we have to live with and just get used to, or it'll become something that just evolves into a less deadly strain, just peters out, or that we'll have a vaccine. So eventually, like, no matter what happens, like, it won't be an issue after a certain point. How long that is, only like experts can tell. Even they are still doing the research on it. But for like live music, like, you know, it'll survive in some way. Like, you know, humans have been playing music since before we've had written or even proper language. So like the urge to play music won't die. If anything, it'll just kind of increase more. And as different countries and areas are able to lift quarantine and have different measures, like New Zealand, for example, like, lucky them, they can do whatever they want now because, like, they eradicated the virus there, right?
Yeah.
But they're an island, and it's easier to kind of quarantine themselves with a smaller population island, you know, whatever, and have easier restrictions. But I think in the live music space, it'll return eventually, but how it returns will be interesting, because, like, you know, even to say with Lingua Franca, like, we're doing the online festival, and, like, you know, we managed to secure a venue, to have distance, like, just basically, like, record live stream sessions. You know, yeah, the amount of precautions we've had to take are interesting, but it'll work. So from that angle, like, live music will still happen, obviously, but, like, venues, like, so many venues might not come out of this, which is so I imagine, like, in my educated / uneducated opinion, I imagine that, like, at the end of this, it's gonna be like a Wild West. Like, venues will always pop up. Like, even if every single venue were to close down, within 2 years you'll have like replacements.
Yeah.
And DIY venue, so like the live space will be fine. It's gonna be like it's gonna be hard, and it's not gonna be easy. I'll say that, but like I know that like with the amount of creativity a lot of different musicians, particularly here, have, and like the kind of, especially with a DIY attitude, it will survive. It's just it'll be interesting navigating it, especially for like bands that are in the mid tiers, where it's like like you're too big to just play like a house show logically, but like you're also too small to play like Danforth Music Hall, which I assume is going to be fine.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's crazy to think about it. It really is.
Yeah. One thing though I'm depressed about though was that I know that mosh pits are gonna be a while to happen again, and my band lives off of mosh pits, so
yeah, that's crazy. I mean, for us, like, if I'm being totally transparent, the idea of like live streaming a show, like, just makes us like it just makes us really anxious. Like, we're just like, do we really? Is this what we're gonna do next year? Like, when our new record comes out, like, if venues aren't back to normal, because we're so used to playing live music that the idea of a live stream, it just kind of takes away that element of just like that live energy from an audience, and it just streaming it from our bedroom just feels very weird. Like, I love watching other musicians do it. It's just like, for us, I'm just like, I don't like should we do this? Does this feel like natural for us? Like, I don't know.
Totally. Well, I can say that like if you're going to release your record, say next month, for example, then you could just play Lingua Franca. As I said, like I kind of secured, like, I secured like I have an entire crew prepared for like bands to literally live stream and record like a live session set. So like if you're watching like say the Junos or something, and like the live performance, it'd be like that pretty much, except no audience, just the camera crew. And
wow. But it's cool. I'm glad though that at least like a lot of like productions are able to go on despite what's happening right now, and at least like reaching people with music. I mean, for us, literally, it's like the only reason why we can't really do it right now is just because the idea makes us so anxious. Like, how are we gonna do this? But maybe in a couple of months we'll be a little more prepared for it.
I believe I think so.
You'll be the first to know.
I'm excited now. But yeah, like you even lose like even audience interaction. Like, it's funny. Like, for me, like a lot of even performance, right? Like, like when I perform, like I'm jumping into the crowd. I'm kind of getting into it. I jump into the crowd. I kind of get involved. Like, I'll get the audience involved and everything. Like, the kind of random raucous energy that only comes with like audience interaction. Like, like my band, like if we got together and played like a live stream set, it sound loud and intense for sure, but like you lose something that would only come from like people seeing us live, and like watching you guys play. Like, for example, like there's a certain mesmerizing quality to it that I don't think necessarily, like, I've seen like your recordings of you play both from like CBC to like I think it was a phone recording from like the Handlebar. And you both and all of them, you sound good, and it's amazing, but at the same time, like, there's always going to be something lost in that kind of like, you see a band up front, you get the kind of energy coming off of them. It's not always replicatable, and that's one thing I will say. That's one good thing I will say though, because like it means that people who actually like music are gonna be like hungry for live shows when they do come, so the audience will be there.
100%. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I hope Yeah. God, now you've made me emotionally conflicted.
Okay, then let's move on. What's the next question?
All right, the next question. Now, I also have to ask this. Now, I also have to ask this because I am very curious. I usually keep these interviews very freeform. Mostly to see how things go, and also want to let the interviewee you know kind of lead, kind of also help to lead where things go. But my one question I was curious about with you guys, particularly, like I had like an entire list of topics. One question I was curious about is John Drew, your longtime producer and drummer in your band. Tell me about him. Tell me about him. I'm just fascinated.
Well, we actually met him back in 2004 when Magneta Lane played the Silver Dollar, and he was actually the one who saw our sound check and called Paperbag Records to be like, yo, you got to come check these girls out. And from there, we got signed.
And that's the thing, like John, I think just from the beginning of time, he's always been like one of our biggest cheerleaders and supports, and a dear friend of both of ours. And I think that, I don't know, John's just such a cool guy. Like, he's so humble. Like, you know, if anyone knows John, it's just obviously he has just like a repertoire that's amazing, and you know, obviously has like, you know, Polaris Awards attached to him, and Junos and nominations and things like that. But he, honest to God, this guy is just the most humble person you will ever meet. Also, I think he's like one of those few people that can actually bring out our sound in a way that just feels so raw and exactly what we wanted to sound like, and we've worked with other producers before as well on other projects, but John is like, I don't know, like maybe it's because like he was probably like the first like real friend that we made in the music industry, because he saw something in us, and I think he has such a knack for bringing out the best side of people sonically and just like as a person. But that's the thing. It's just like we feel that whenever we get together with him, we create magic. And at this point in the project, you know, Nadia, because she also plays bass, we were looking for a drummer, and we're like, well, come on, like John is like, oh my God, he's a wicked drummer. Like, he's just, you know, the man is like, you know, just, he's a machine. Like, he's honestly a machine, and he's so talented. But it really does feel like we're all kind of like working in the family when we're on stage together, and it feels like just really, really natural. So I don't know. I just can't imagine really doing, you know, that project with anyone else but John. And it just kind of naturally came to be that way. You know, like John has, you know, his studio tours recording, and you know, you just walk into that space and it's so beautiful, and you just want to like create things in there, you know, and his door is always open. And, you know, there's so many bands that like, you know, that, you know, I don't know, like that just, I don't know, he's just such a nice guy. Like, I honestly can't put it any other way. Actually, he really likes your band too. I think you guys should work together.
Oh my.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like, I feel like it's just, yeah, he's just such a cool dude. Like, the energy just feels like really nice, and I just can't imagine working with anyone else on this project. But yeah, I hope that sums it up.
Very cool. Very cool. My next question is a bit of a nerdy question as well. So it's kind of about it's about like like Latinx, like Latin American pop and rock. So you guys like you guys like Soda?
Soda Stereo?
Yes, Soda Stereo, yeah. like Soda Stereo.
Yeah, we like all that classic rock stuff, like Caifanes.
Oh, go on.
Oh, sorry, I was like, I thought you cut out. Yeah, no, just like there's so many like amazing bands that have like, you know, come out of there, like Caifanes and Molotov, and obviously there's bands that are like, you know, a lot bigger now, like Café Tacuba and even Zoe and stuff. But there's so many like for music that come. And you know what I love though too is that how much, you know, those bands still enjoy so much success, even though they are rock bands. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like here it's like, I don't know. It's just like they don't see their rock bands in the same way here, the way that they see and idolize their rock bands back home in Mexico.
I've kind of from my outsider perspective, I've kind of noticed that a bit, like, because I'll look at in other countries particularly too, I mean, Europe in general is just different.
Yeah.
But like in terms particularly as well, because like people generally don't assume rock music exists in like non quote unquote white countries. You go to Southeast Asia, for example, or like Japan, Southeast Asia, for example, with their rock scene, or you go to Japan. I mean, Japan, I say more, but like with Latin America, which is one of the reasons why, like it's one of my goals in life to kind of tour like Latin American countries. Like I find that like they like rock music. Like I mean, everywhere has pop music, but like I at least from my outsider perspective, I've always just seen that rock music, like, yeah, like they have more, I guess, respect for rock music over there to this day, in comparison to say here, where it's like, people just associate liking rock bands just like, that old dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, to be honest, like, I don't know if it's, because I used to say this years ago. Like, I feel like in Mexico, just like Latin America in general, it's just like people, they're just so excited to see like a live music band, live music, but also like buy records. And at the same time, I think it's because there's like we're naturally attached to nostalgia in a way. Like, I think that's just something that very much exists over there. Like, for example, even a lot of the newer bands that come out, they do have like, a lot of like, 80s influence to them, or late 70s influence to them. And in a big way, that's probably what inspired Lola as well, like the sound for Lola. But I just think that is like something that is inherently part of the culture. Like, even when you're driving around, like in Mexico, in like one of the, the Ubers, just, people, they're always playing like that classic old rock music, and they respect it and they appreciate it. And it's definitely something that is very much, I don't know, just passed down to the new music that comes out of there. So I don't know. I think it's just something that's naturally embedded in the culture, and it definitely has something to do with the fact that we love nostalgia.
That's cool. That's honestly very cool. I, I wish I wish like we over here people were more interested in nostalgia, but like usually when people hear interested in nostalgia, it always just comes out in some kind of it's always like the worst kind of nostalgia.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's honestly very cool. Like, in Jamaica, for example, I'll say in Jamaica, compared to like, we don't really have nostalgia in Jamaica that much. So like it's more along the lines of it's more just like lame. So like because everyone likes reggae, and then dancehall. Like everyone just likes all these different types of Jamaican musical genres, but like at the same time you'll have like there's not really say a nostalgia. It's just a nostalgia per se. The feeling is more just like it's like you'll have young people who are like older people are always surprised young people will know like other musicians from the 70s that aren't Bob Marley, for example.
Right.
Even there, like I'll talk to older Jamaicans, and they're still surprised. They're always surprised. Well, first, yeah, they're surprised that I'm not in a reggae band, for one thing.
Well, it's always good to give people a fresh perspective, right?
Oh yeah. And then they get surprised that I know about all these like awesome like old school bands, stuff like that. And younger Jamaicans usually just more into like dance hall, or like the newer dance hall stuff, not even the old dance hall stuff. Like I remember my cousin, he used to go on about Vibes Cartel versus Movado.
Oh wow.
And that was like 12 years ago. And when like that, I could go on about that, but yeah, that was a big issue 12 years ago. I guess we see who won those wars, but like if it was say in the 90s, it would have been like, I don't know, Ninja Man versus who was Ninja Man versing back then, or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty cool though. That's pretty cool though. That's very cool actually.
I mean, and that's the thing, right? Like, even for us, like, all the stuff that essentially became influence for Lola was all the stuff that we grew up listening to at home with our mom, like when she used to clean the house and do the chores and all that stuff. So
we used to help.
Yeah, we used to help very mediocrely, but yeah, no, but I think it's inevitable, like we love nostalgia. We love things that reminds us of our families and memories. And I think just in general, like, Latinos, like, we're very passionate people, and we have a lot of heart, even when we're suffering and when we're angry. And it's just, I don't know, it's just part of who we are.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, this is a question that I think this is becoming a running question on this series. Now, as musicians over the time you've been in the music scene, what have been the comparisons as BIPOC musicians? What have been the comparisons that just like the comparisons you might get that just ruin your day?
Oh man, I don't know. Well, look, I'll tell you, going back to our first band. Not related to being Latinx, but more so just like in that space, like something that would always come up, which was really annoying at the time. And I mean, power to Avril Lavigne, but it was one of those things where it was just like, because we were young women that had, obviously like influence from like, I don't know, like I guess like punk music at the time. When the project started getting bigger, it was just so natural for them to always fall back on like, oh, what other like female can we think of that does like pop rock music? Okay, let's just compare them to her. So that came up a couple of times, and also because of the age. In terms of, let me think, in terms of being Latinx now in our current project, let me think. I don't know. I think it's just kind of more so the idea that, it's like, oh, for example, like this is kind of more of like a general answer to this question, because this actually comes up a lot behind the scenes, is the idea of like what world music really means. And I feel that because we do sing in Spanish and our project is in Spanish, naturally we get lump summed with other artists who are all incredible. But we all get categorized as a world music scene when, in a way, it's like what we're doing and what we're trying to do is just like indie pop rock music. Like that's essentially what we do. But as soon as they hear music that's in another language or it's influenced by something else, like culturally, they automatically just slot it into this like world music category, which I think really just kind of like, I don't know, I just think that's one perspective. It's not like the full perspective of like what we're trying to accomplish. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's like one of the things that I think we've very much seen that comes up in our current project. I mean, we've loved all the bands that we've, played with, and obviously they all come from many different parts of the world, and, couldn't encourage that more. But I just wish that they would see us all for the genres that we play in, and not necessarily the fact that we're world music because we speak in different languages, if that makes sense.
Definitely. Definitely. I've had conversations with like different musicians about that very same topic, with Coco, for example. We had talked about that.
Yeah, and they're wicked.
Oh yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah, they're so wicked.
And like talking with them after the show, we were just talking, and it was just like, like kind of like the growing. I was talking with them about like the changes in terms of like African, like the content, like the overarching like African like continent in terms of alternative music on the African continent, and how like it's kind of also breaking down that kind of label of world music, just because like it's not it's made by like non-Europeans, you know what I mean? It's like Fela Kuti, for example, made Afrobeat. He didn't make world music. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
so that's interesting. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Cause like I would never peg you guys as like a world music band. Like even what I imagine world music, that kind of nebulous term from like the 80s, and whatever Phil Collins or Peter Gabriel were doing with exotic instrument with quote unquote quote unquote exotic instruments. I would never have pegged you guys as world music. I'm like, you're just a indie pop rock band that with like song that sings in Spanish. I don't see how you know what I mean, but
totally. And it's such a thing. It's so interesting how much that actually does come up, and it's a thing sometimes too. Like when you're filling out like applications for grants for your projects, just like even sometimes though too. Like this is like a kind of on the topic, but another topic too is like obviously like we're Latinx women. But at the same time, it's like, what's that whole thing about being a white passing Latinx? This is definitely a conversation that needs to happen, right? Because then it's like, we talk about, the fact that, again, I don't necessarily have the same skin color experience as, someone who's Black. And so that's a whole other layer to this conversation, which is, but that's the thing. Like, these conversations need to happen. I feel that, in the coming years, I hope that, things are changing. Like, I mean, you heard too about how they got rid of, a couple labels got rid of like urban departments too, like in at certain record labels, because that was, a thing that obviously like shouldn't even be a thing at this point. But that's the reality of it. It's like these people I think are just so obsessed with labeling things, and they don't let them just be what they need to be. But yeah, the world music thing in us just has always been so, like, the same thing. Like, I've thought the same thing. I'm just like, really? Like, I don't think there's anything about us that's world music, but they don't know where else to put us. So naturally, they're going to be like, well, they speak in Spanish, so world music.
Yeah, which again, it's like that I say that like that again, even speaking to the urban thing, right? Because like I often like it's a joke among the Black communities, particularly especially if you don't play what is considered urban, like rap or R&B, which is a nebulous term in of itself.
Yeah.
Like I often used to joke that like John Crow, like my band is like we can play in whatever, we literally play whatever the fuck I'm thinking of that day.
Yeah.
But it's usually like we're a loud rock band generally, and like. I used to joke that, like, I'm waiting for the day John Crow gets nominated for a Grammy or Juno. I just want that just because I know they're going to find some way to slot us in the urban category with, like, a bunch of rappers and R&B singers just so I can go up on stage and be like, yep, we're an R&B band, huh?
Yeah, it is. It really is incredible. Like, I don't know. Well, we hope everyone gets, just gets fucking smarter when it comes to this stuff.
Same, but you know how the industry.
Oh, I know. And I've been on the other side of it, so I definitely know. And that experience was very eye-opening too. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I guess we'll see what happens. We'll see if they put their money where their mouth is.
I'm hoping they do. If they don't, at least in my case, being the bullheaded punk I am, I'll just be like, okay, whatever, and then I'll just wait for that day we get nominated, and then I can just. Also, the other reason why I want to get nominated for an award is mostly so I can just kind of not wear a suit to the award show and just kind of perform shirtless or accept an award shirtless, because I just like just kind of anti the whole process. But oh god, I shouldn't say that on an interview. Who cares?
I think it's awesome.
but yeah. Oh dear. But on the real, the world music, that is honestly a new one. That is honestly a new one. I yeah, like for me, usually the comments that kind of ruin my day are generally like whenever someone brings up the a Bad Brains comparison.
Oh right.
But like a Bad Brains comparison, but like at the same time, I'll say that things have been changing somewhat, at least from that avenue. Hopefully, they change in a larger avenue going forward. So the world music thing doesn't change, because like I'm getting less people referencing like the Bad Brains, or if they're gonna reference like a black fronted band or a majority black band to me after the show. Usually they do that, like, and it's like an actual band I'd be more influenced by, like X-Ray Specs, for example. You know what I mean? Or someone actually notices the Prince influence, or I went to a show and someone like commented that my band reminded them of the Tragically Hip because for one of the songs we do.
Really?
We're not influenced by them at all. We don't sound like them at all, except like
No.
I have a very I can be very verbose lyrically on stage, and that kind of made my day because I was like, wow, this drunk person didn't say I sounded like the Bad Brains for once.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and it's true. It means that they're like picking up on, just like other things, like not necessarily your direct influences, but they're actually like, they're looking at the art for what it is. And that's obviously, like, I think as an artist, that's like one of the best things, like one of the best feelings is when somebody just kind of tells you something new,
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. I will. Again, just because like this is going to be echoing in my brain for days. I'm like, we have yet to get the world music thing, but considering where we're going, we're going to and are going to be incorporating some more traditional like Jamaican musical elements to our sound, like percussion instruments, some field recordings that I have saved up from my father, and some stuff to play, and it'll be interesting to see if that happens. I'll let you know if we get slotted as a world music.
Yeah, for sure. And then maybe we'll be up for the same award in the same category.
I you know what? I'd wear a suit. I'd wear a suit just to be classy for you. That's funny. Now we're nearing the final questions. One question now, going off of, I guess, from that previous question, I guess from a more, I guess, like, from more like, I guess, the more technical or behind the scenes aspect, because in turn, because you guys have had more experience with that. I guess, like, not even necessarily just as like as BIPOC musicians dealing with that type of stuff, but that is a part of it. Like, I don't know, like, how do you see, like, I guess the way the Canadian music industry has been changing over the past, like, 15 years, for example, like, some of those processes, do you think things are getting, I guess, easier or do you think it's just people spinning their wheels still?
I mean, I think this is like it's, again, I think this is going to be a loaded answer, but I'll try to keep it as simple as possible. I mean, I think for me, the most important thing is, like, I would appreciate a music industry that did what they needed to do without people having to state the obvious. So I feel like, when it comes to, like, making space for more POC, or making space for women, or making space for Latinx, or whatever that conversation looks like, just fucking do it. That's it. It's like, just fucking do it. Don't wait for somebody to tell you to do it. Don't wait for something to come out in the media for people to respond and get into crisis mode so that it's like, you know what I mean? I feel like a lot of the time, Canadian music industry has a very reactive attitude towards things instead of just doing things when they're supposed to be doing it. And so I think in that sense, that's the one thing that I hope that they get better at. Instead of reacting, that they should just be doing. They should just be doing what they need to do. So yeah, and I just hope that obviously, like, the one thing that I'm, happy about, it's small progress, but, there still is a lot of things that need to change, like, for Indigenous communities, things that need to change in all these spaces that we talk about and, collaborate with. And so I think this is just, again, very much tip of the iceberg, but I just want Canadian music industry to start doing it when they need to be doing it and not waiting for, the shoe to drop or something to happen in order for them to react, if that makes sense.
Oh, yes. And I am in full agreement.
Yeah.
I'm in full agreement. Like,
because it's like, I'm not to say it, but it's like, we're not your fad. We're not like, it's, we're not like a quota to fill either. It's like, oh, like so-and-so radio station or so-and-so publication wants to be more inclusive. What's the name of that Latinx band, or what's the name of that Black-fronted band that Let's just fill them in. It's like, dude, just do what you need to do. That's it.
Yes!
It's like, we're too far ahead to be wiping people's asses right now. Just do what you fucking need to do. Like, that's it.
Preach, sister, preach!
Oh man.
I am in full agreement. Like, just like, even like from even just saying onto that example, like, it's funny, like, it's funny, like, as a band, like, I kind like, as a band, like, it I hope, like, one thing I would hope, like, like, say bands like bands like ours, and then even like mine, like, in terms of that, like, where you don't, I hope, like, in the future, like, it's not like, you say we're the front people of the band, and then it's just like, well, we can already kind of tick off how much this is going to impact us negatively. I'm like, yep, not gonna get this press coverage. Yep, not gonna get ignored. Yep. Just tick that off. Because I've done that. I'm sure a lot of, like, BIPOC fronted bands, a lot of black bands have probably done that, where they're just like, particularly, like, in terms of being the front person, like, I sometimes, like, my bandmates kind of, we all accept that, where it's just like, because I'm the front person of the band, it's just a natural expectation of, like, the way the music industry works, where it's just like, well, let's see how long it takes. And I will say that my band still hasn't been. You'd be surprised how, like, little I've actually been talked to by bigger stuff. I'm relatively unknown. which I don't mind. I work better in the underground, but it's just
all of us, man.
Yeah. It's just a weird example. Like, I'll often, like, joke when stuff like this happens, like, okay, let's see, I'm just waiting for, like, that big scoop to happen, or when, like, when suddenly, like, I get the label email, like, the label email, which has yet to happen. My DMs are open, by the way. If any major companies are listening, my DMs are open. Whether or not it'll amount to anything is questionable, but my DMs are open. I like to be flattered. You can bribe me with pie, but
I was gonna say, like, all these labels don't even have any money right now, so I wouldn't.
Oh no! I enjoy my independence. I just like poking fun at everything.
Yeah, totally.
But no, okay, that's pretty cool. Like but yeah, I'm in general agreement with everything you said. Hopefully things do kind of change. Cause like, you know, cause like cause like at every, cause there's always gonna be like different levels to everything, and like hopefully from like every single level, from the bottom up, from the top down, things do change, and it's not just waiting for the next, shoe to drop.
Exactly.
Uh,
Yeah, like these people, they need to just, I don't know. It's kind of like, this is like a basic just being like a decent fucking human being thing. You know what I mean? It's like, just get it. Don't wait for somebody to tell you what you got to do. Like, I just, that's always blown my mind.
yeah, it just make things easier, but and better. Like it would make a far better music scene, but we can't have nice things.
Yeah.
Could be worse. Actually, no. Wait. Nope. Can't say that. Nope. Cause nope. Can't say that. But nah. And I will have to ask, like, what's next for Lola? Like, what's next for you? Like, pandemic. I know pandemic kind of affects a lot of things, but like ideally, if things are stable enough, and even in general in terms of writing and directions and like new things, what can what new things can we expect from the band going forward? I'm very curious.
So I think it's funny because I mean I know we're a little bit erratic in this sense where it's like we decide to do things one day and then we kind of change our minds and like take a different turn, and I think it's just kind of more about like doing things when the time feels right. It's not that we don't follow through with the plans that we make, but it's just like I think that right now, I don't know, it's just there's so many other things, at least for us, that feel like are so much more important to focus on than like us releasing a record. So we've kind of just chosen to take the time out to, obviously like, focus on, what's it called? Like just planning, but also like our mental health and, the things that are important right now, like our family and obviously all these issues in the world that I think are much more important topics than us putting out a record. But when all of this COVID thing passes, what we would like to do, like we have a full-length record that's already finished and ready to go. So we're definitely going to put that out digitally. We also have a music video that's done as well. So basically all we're doing is just like hoarding our creative pieces until the time is right. But no, it's just like right now we just feel like it's not the right time. But I would say that maybe for next year, we'll definitely put it out. So there'll be a music video and a full-length record. In terms of live shows, I mean, again, I don't know what that's going to look like, but maybe we could do like a cool live stream event. But yeah, it'll just be like really interesting to see what that looks like. But I think that's pretty much it for now, because at this point it's taking everything a day at a time. But there's definitely a full-length record and definitely a video that we just have been recording.
Okay. Very cool. I look forward to it.
Thanks, man. Look, as soon as I know when it's gonna come out, I'm gonna tell you first, okay?
That's my excited whale. I have an excited whale. Everybody who doesn't know.
I love it.
All right. I'm honestly very stoked for that, and hopefully shows like happen, like things get back to normal, or no,
yeah,
better than normal. Cause normal before was kind of fucked, so better than normal.
Yeah. Totally. Oh, something else that comes to mind, because I actually forgot to mention this. So Regina Gently is actually putting out a new single next month, and I sang on that song, so I'm excited for that. So once that's out, that's gonna be some fun stuff. And Regina's been like just a really cool friend to us, and I just love being able to collaborate with her. So that's gonna be fun.
Okay, I'm excited now. Something to look forward to. And this is and this is going to be I guess just just a random just a random question. You don't really have to. You can ignore it if you want. So any possibility when stuff happens back to normal, I goes without saying that you have a free that you always have an invitation to a certain yearly festival if you ever feel inclined or want to play. You always have a spot reserved if you want.
Aw, thanks, man. You know what's so funny? You know what we actually thought about at one point, and maybe this is like an idea I could pitch to you right now. So Nadia actually said, how fun would it be if we played Lola songs like the way that we used to play like our Magneta songs for like one show? So basically just like stripped down bass, drums, guitar, vocals. How cool would that be? And then maybe that's something we could do with Lingua Franca. Obviously, once we could play live shows again.
Okay. Where's my calendar? Okay. Yep. Yep.
And also, you also have to come down to Mexico. We talked about this. You have to come down to Mexico, and you have to do Lingua Franca in Mexico City.
I'd love to. How I would have Lingua Franca in an already like in essentially a BIPOC country, that would be interesting. I want to do it.
Perfect. I got you. We'll figure it out.
But yeah, okay. Literally, whatever. Basically, consider it like consider your spot reserved.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Man, you just would you can't see the massive smile on my face, but like I think the fish in the aquarium like adjacent to me are like just staring at me. Why is he smiling like an idiot?
Oh. I love it.
But yeah. I think that about covers it. Outside of just a general like 1,000 questions I could ask you.
It's all good. Then we'll have to do a part 2 at some point. Maybe when the record comes out.
I'm down.
Done. Thanks for having us, man. This was so much fun.
Oh yeah. Thank you again for being on. It is an honor and a pleasure to have you on the program. Is there anything you have, any final words or thoughts you wanna share to the people out there?
Oh man, I don't know. I have so much to say all the time. Nadia, do you have anything to say? I don't know. I would just say, man, like times are crazy right now. So just, do your best to just treat others with kindness and take that time out to care for yourself and, find your balance. And, if you're a young kid too, that like is trying to find their way, like start your rock band, write music, do whatever you got to do. Cause those things, they open up your world to amazing things. So that's pretty much it. What do you think, Nadia? I agree. I'm quiet. I'm so sorry. We're so fucking weird.
We're opposites.
We're opposites, and we're so fucking weird. But we're just like, I think we're soulmates.
So yeah, thank you once again, Lola, for being on.
Thanks, man.